Here's three-pointer. Bang! Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
You're listening to the Vertical Jump Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Kayanja, and on a weekly basis, we'll be joined by my co-host, Pedro Bradshaw, and this is your new home for basketball content ranging from college basketball to the NBA. We cover both ends of the floor, and on a weekly basis, you can expect in-depth analysis and debate over who the best players are, what are some of the best plays, and where are the best teams and what are they doing. So if you enjoy basketball content, make sure to subscribe to this podcast on any podcasting platform you use. So I'm here with my co-host, Pedro. Pedro, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm really good.
How's the basketball going?
It's going well. With everything going on, everyone's in college basketball. We're kind of scrambling to figure out our non-conference schedule. So,
how's that been going? Because we had the NCAA before we talked. I think like 2 weeks ago now, the NCAA came out with their decision officially that basketball will be played. I think it was the 25th was their date.
Right.
So what does that meant for your team and your guys?
It means a lot because we finally got something that's concrete,
Right.
and definitive. Like I said, we're just trying to figure out who we're going to play, where, and when, for the most part.
So what has that process been looking like?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously want to know who you're going to play. Our conference schedule is set in stone, but non-conference, at this point, it's just going to be nice to play somebody other than my teammates,
So
but
practice has been like.
The practice has been all right. We start official practice next Wednesday, but as of right now, we've been running it, as if it's official. We've been, but it's been going pretty well, man. Just continuing to gel and just try to get better each and every day. We got a really young team, so.
Mm-hmm. So have you been assuming more of a leadership role in that sense?
Yeah, and I've kind of had to. Yeah, my coaches, even before the season, were telling me that they were going to need a lot more out of me in more ways than one this year, and leadership was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But, even without that, like I said, I'm kind of forced into that role because our team, like I said, we're so young, and only 4 of us played significant minutes last year.
Right.
Everybody else is their first go at it, or their walk-ons, freshmen, things like that. So I enjoy it though. It's something I've always kind of been. Even as a kid growing up, I've kind of always liked being not in charge, but people looking to you and asking.
Okay, you don't have to be humble, man. You like being in charge. You like being the boss.
Yeah, no, but I like it, man. It can be challenging sometimes, but I really like it. I enjoy it.
All right. Well, I'm hoping for the best for you guys. It's been nice to kind of get these updates on what's been going on because at Belmont, they haven't told us much. I mean, with being the media and stuff, I think a lot of the stuff they want to get out, they need it to be concrete before they do.
Right.
So it's been nice to kind of hear what's going on kind of on the inside with you guys and kind of get the inner workings of things. But we have on the docket tonight the Lakers. And, being a LeBron fan, though he closed out the game okay, it's tough. I will say, me being a LeBron fan, you being a LeBron fan, it's tough.
It is.
So first opinion takeaway, what did you think of tonight?
I think the Lakers, I don't know, man. They picked it up in the second half, but I don't know. LeBron and AD, they obviously make that team go, but the role players have been playing really, really well. Caruso, KCP had a big game tonight. Rondo, Kuzma. Just the turnovers from AD and LeBron together, they're just really questionable. Like some of them are unforced. He's trying to force it because LeBron, he's a capable shooter, but he loves to get to the rim. and they're zoning up on him. So it's tougher for him to get to the rim.
That's a good point that you made. I wrote for one of the various websites I write for. I wrote in my finals preview that the last team that LeBron lost to when he was expected to win in the finals, the 2011 Mavs, were a team that ran a lot of zone because they had Tyson Chandler in the middle with Dirk Nowitzki and Jason Kidd and Sean Marion, guys that they were quick enough laterally to guard a zone, but not necessarily true in when they would match up in man. And we saw how that hurt LeBron. I mean, that finals, he had his worst counting stats that he's ever averaged in the finals. And he said, he learned from it and he went on to win a championship in the 2 next seasons. But the biggest thing that I remember taking away was just his inability to, be a transcendent playmaker against the zone. And that is kind of carried over. Here we are 9-10 years later going up against a Miami Heat team that runs a lot of matchup zone. And we're seeing him throw the ball away a lot. And I think that it's just a commonality for LeBron. But when he can't matchup hunt and just run straight pick and roll until he gets a switch he wants and just bully that person, he struggles.
He does. It's tough. Like I said, they're zoning up on him. So you got guys, and most of the time, if he's not in the post or mid post, he's operating from the top of the key. And so it's tough for him to drive because you have obviously the man that's defending you, and you have one that's in the gap zoning up on your left side. Then you have one that's on the right side. You know, and they're giving him a little space, so they're wanting him to take that three. You know. And he's at a lot of times he doesn't seem comfortable taking that shot. And
it's
AD
been that way the entire bubble too.
Yeah, it's weird. And like I said, he's obviously capable, but I'm sure this bubble has affected that. AD tonight was really passive until the end.
What happened between games 1 and 2 to now game 4? I find it hard to believe that it's the Heat figuring it out, because in my mind, and I get it. It's always easy for a short guy, like me. I play basketball, pick up,
right.
and it's easy for me to just be like, he's 7 feet tall. Why don't you just dunk the ball every time? And that's not realistic. But I mean, they're guarding AD with Jay Crowder at times. You have to put up 30 and 10. I mean, it's not like that was a crazy thing because he did it in game 1 and game 2.
Right.
And so
now
what happened?
They're playing him differently. That's right. That's more so what's happening. Like I said, tonight, they're fronting him in the post. And then when he gets a chance to catch it, he's pushed out towards almost the 3-point line. And he's got same thing. They're zoning up on him too. So he can't really operate the way he wants to. And obviously he can face up and shoot over guys, but it's tough if as soon as you face up, there's a man right here. There's a man right here. You got your man on you.
Right.
And you don't want to take a bad shot. So he's looking to make plays for everybody else, but they're zoned up. So it kind of messes up the cutting a little bit. So it's tough. It's really tough, but he started getting it going towards the end of the game, but it was really tough to see because he was passing up wide open threes in the very beginning. Yeah. So, he had to get comfortable. And like I said, ultimately he did. He hit a really clutch shot towards the end of the game, which kind of put the nail in the coffin. So, like I said, it was an ugly win, but we'll take it.
Now, I kind of want to transition to something I've been thinking a lot about as these finals have been going on. I'm watching LeBron and I'm comparing it, we're all prisoners of the moment. And so in this moment, I'm comparing it to, the 2018, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12 finals, that stretch between 2012 and 2018 where LeBron was the best player in every final series, right? I mean, some argue that, KD in 2017 and 2018, I might give you that. His team won and his splits were almost identical to LeBron. But I've noticed with this finals, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this point, but I felt that as I'm watching the game, LeBron's fingerprint on the game feels lesser than it does in previous years. And now, is that me being a prisoner of the moment, or is LeBron just not dominating in the same way as he used to?
I think I don't know. It's tough. I can see what you're saying, and I think it kind of goes to him being older. I think it definitely points to that. He's still LeBron James, but he's obviously older. So
But it's like LeBron James light. It's like there's
right,
LeBron
right.
James and then LeBron James light. And with this LeBron James light, he's not getting his shoulders past his defenders as much. He's not finishing at the rim with as much ferocity, and the biggest place where I see it is on that second jump where, you know, he used to be somebody that if he missed a layup, he'd be the first one up there to grab his own rebound and stick it back in. And now he's getting beat out on these second jumps by Kelly Olynyk's and Jay Crowder's. Again, I might be a prisoner of the moment, and it might be this narrative in my head that LeBron's getting older, so I'm looking for these things more.
No, it's definitely there. Like I said, he's older, so like the athleticism is still there, but he's not LeBron from 2012 type athletic, you know.
Right.
He's just getting older, and that's why he's so willing to defer to AD at least again, you know. And I think that too. I think that kind of takes away from his rhythm because, like, okay, I got to pass it to him and get him started, and then once it's time for him, you know, to kind of, you know, get his thing going. If he's not hitting those first 2-3 shots, it could be a rough night, you know.
Yeah.
So. But he understands that he is getting older and he's still dominant. But like you said, he's LeBron light. So that's why I believe they're going to get another big name in there this summer.
I think Kuzma's gone.
Yes. I think he's gone.
Because he was supposed to be their third fiddle this year. And I think partly maybe the Lakers are kicking themselves that they gave up Ingram.
I don't think so. I mean, Ingram – he was the same exact player in LA that he was this year.
You
Obviously.
think so?
Yes, I believe so.
I think he's the same player that he was when LeBron started sitting, and then you saw him start to take that leap where they were saying, all right, Ingram, you create for us here. Mm-hmm. And with his uptick in usage, you finally saw why he was drafted as high as he was.
Right, exactly. Because him and LeBron, like, they both...
It's a bit of overlapping skill sets.
Yes, exactly.
They're both wings that can play make. And with LeBron being so ball-centric, it forced Ingram into a lot of catch and shoots, and we know that's not his game. It's never been his game.
No.
So,
but he had improved on it.
Yeah, that is true. So if we think that Kuzma's gone, who would you want to see with this core Lakers group of AD, LeBron, Danny Green, and KCP?
I don't know if Danny Green's gonna be there next year.
It sure as heck better not be for the same price tag.
You know, man, I was talking about this with one of my teammates. Personally, my ideal, like, I would just love to see him there, is Zach LaVine.
Okay. Why?
Just because, man, Zach LaVine has the size, the strength, the athleticism, the shooting ability, the playmaking ability. Like, he could take a huge load off of LeBron and AD.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's nights like, you know, the first half tonight in Game 3 when neither of them are really doing much. Okay, Zach, come on, man, be our playmaker, be our scorer.
Right.
You know, just go get you 25 plus.
He is a scoring machine.
And he's capable of playing off the ball too. He's cool with catching and shooting or cutting, you know, like that. So that's just me, though. I don't think it'll happen, but you know.
I'd like to see, and it's probably a bit more plausible because the player is on a 1-year deal, and that's Derrick Rose. I feel that they should have tried to make a harder push for him at the trade deadline this year. I don't get why Detroit, that dumpster fire of an organization, wasn't willing to give up their 31 or 32-year-old point guard But I think Derrick Rose answers that question of, if you have a backcourt of Derrick Rose and you bring in Rondo off the bench, after seeing what Rondo can do for the Lakers in this playoffs, I think he comes back again, especially if they win. And then you add Derrick Rose in there, I think he adds a level of athleticism and just dynamic play creation at the point guard position that they are sorely lacking. Because though Derrick Rose may not be MVP Derrick Rose, and he's very far from that at this point, he's still a really, really good NBA player, and he had a really, really good season last year. And the biggest thing is that he shot the three ball the best he's ever shot it in his career. And with that wrinkle added to the game, a lineup where you have an actual threat at point guard that's not like a Caruso or a Rondo, where you saw what the Heat did tonight. They're playing him for the pass more than anything else, but somebody that is a dynamic scoring threat. And, like you said with Zach LaVine, it's the same reasons why you'd bring Zach LaVine to town.
Right.
I don't think if in any other season this Lakers team can win a championship. If we're talking about the 10 years we just came out of in the 2010s, I don't think this Lakers team could have won a championship with how stacked the finals teams that won it in this past decade were. And so I think that right now it was more of a strike while the iron's hot type of thing, I think this team is deeply flawed. Goran Dragic doesn't get hurt. Maybe this series is 2-2, I really do think so. Okay, you're shaking your head. Why?
I don't think so. Well, first off, they were getting killed when he was playing in game one. But Dragic is he's a great player, and I've always been a fan of his game. But he's 35, a little older, never been too good defensively. He's small, and he would have been one of the guys that LeBron would have hunted. And it's.
You're telling me he wouldn't have been better than Kendrick Nunn tonight, though?
Yeah,
come on.
I give you that. Kendrick Nunn is out there trying to make sure he don't get sent overseas.
He better pick it up, because I don't know how you go from first team all rookie to 2 for 11
right.
in the NBA Finals. But I think it is a slightly different series with Goran, where what Goran brought to the Heat, I mean, he was their leading scorer in the postseason. And so those 20-some points, they're having to be patched up elsewhere. I think tonight the Heat actually could have won if they played Kelly Olynyk more. And I think we should just transition to the Heat segment, since that's kind of what we're on anyway right now. But now hear me out with my Kelly Olynyk piece. I think Bam, as special as Bam is, have you ever heard of the Ewing theory?
No.
So the Ewing theory basically says that sometimes teams play better when their star players hurt, right? And it's kind of built on the Knicks with Patrick Ewing, how they had one of their best seasons when Ewing didn't play. It's this like theory that's been passed around in sports circles for a while. And I think the Miami Heat might play better. Not saying that they're a better team, right? And it's a big difference between being a better team and playing better. Now, Bam didn't play in games 2 and game 3. And Kelly Olynyk in those games had a near double-double, scoring almost 20 points. And he offers the Heat floor spacing that Bam doesn't have, and offensive versatility that to some degree Bam doesn't have. Because though Bam's a great passer, Kelly Olynyk and Jimmy Butler work well together, because Kelly spaces the floor and Jimmy doesn't like to shoot it. That offers them a different look when they say run a guard big pick and roll with Olynyk, and then Olynyk can either dive to the rim like Bam does. He's not going to finish as athletically, but he is a good finisher around the basket. Or say the defense hedges and Olynyk pops, right? That's a catch and shoot three that you have to respect, because he can hit that. I think that the offensive versatility that Olynyk gives them in this series is more valuable than what Bam gives them. What do you think about that?
I can definitely see that. I agree with you there. But I think their thing was, we got to play Bam.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. You can't not play Bam.
Right. So I think that was the only thing keeping that from happening. But Kelly Olynyk, like you said, he does provide floor space, and he can guard 4 or
What do you
5.
mean?
He's got the size and length to guard 4 or 5.
He doesn't have the quickness, though.
No. But offensively, he's a problem. He can be.
Yeah, and he's had some big games in the playoffs. People need to, me and my friend have a text thread every time Kelly Olynyk starts going off, and we call him Larry Olynyk because every time he gets hot, tell me he does not look like Prime Bird.
I don't. Yeah.
Bro, think of he looks like Prime Bird when he plays like Prime Bird, the Kmart version that's really watered down whenever he gets hot.
The Kmart version. Wow. I don't know. I don't know about all that. I'm not a Kelly Olynyk fan anyways, ever since he pulled Kevin Love's arm out of socket.
Okay. So a game that you need to watch because Kelly Olynyk is that dude. What was it? I think it was game 7 when he was with the Boston Celtics versus the Wizards. It was either game 6 or game 7. And the guy goes completely off. Like from the second quarter to the midway point of the fourth, he is unstoppable. And that's where the legend of Larry Olynyk was born. It was 2016, or it was the year the Wizards almost went to the conference finals.
I think it was 15.
And so the legend of Larry Olynyk is real. And I think that in this series, he gives them something Bam doesn't, and that's floor spacing. And with how passive Jimmy looked today, I think that floor spacing could have been used.
Yeah, that's true. So
and
down the stretch,
another thing,
you just wouldn't play Bam.
No, I'd play Bam. I just wouldn't play Crowder. I can't stand Jay Crowder. He's one of my least favorite NBA guys. Like what does he do? He went 2 for 7 tonight with 8 points and 4 fouls. Like, you just run around and punch people. And like, to me, Jay Crowder, I get you're in the NBA, but he's not as skilled as those guys on the floor. And he knows it, so he's just a hack. He's an irritant. And I hate playing against those types of guys. Guys you're clearly better than, so they just try to, fight you. That stuff pisses me off. I'm like, let's play the game because I'll beat you if we play the game.
Right.
And so I'm saying you sit Jay Crowder. He's not offering you threes, and he's going to offer you personal fouls. He sent LeBron to the line 3 times in a row. And why don't you just insert Kelly Olynyk and you run a Olynyk Bam front court with Duncan, Hero, and Butler? Think about that floor spacing, because Bam's in the middle, and then you got Olynyk, Butler. Well, you got Olynyk, Robinson, and Hero all able and willing to shoot the 3. I think Jimmy Butler can't. I don't know why he just stopped taking threes this year. I don't know what happened.
He's not even like Dwayne Wade type. Like, he's not even looking.
And the thing is, he went from in Philadelphia hitting game-winning threes to just, I think he's trying to do his best D Wade impression. But but Olynyk inserted for Crowder. Yes, you give up something on defense. You give up the irritant, whatever. But I think that offensive versatility is needed to give Butler enough space around the basket to create. Because what we saw without Bam in there was that the Lakers really couldn't utilize their length in the front court. And so that is what helped create the Game 3 Jimmy Butler we saw with his 40-point triple-double. Because he didn't score 40 points shooting threes. Everything was around the basket. Because nobody was there to stop. It was like a highway. It was like, I-50 or whatever. He was just running straight down it every time.
Right, and the Lakers couldn't help off nobody.
Exactly. And the one thing I will give the Lakers is that they seem to have survived the Hero and Robinson game, because I was waiting for it all series where those two guys are hitting those impossible shots they were hitting against the Celtics. And tonight was kind of that night where, Hero made some really suspect floaters that he does not practice those shots.
Robinson banked in a 3.
Yeah. And so I think to survive the Hero and Robinson game for the Lakers is a good sign, especially with how bad LeBron and AD played in the first half.
Yeah, that's very true. They got one more though, one more win, and we can go home.
You acting like you're in the bubble,
Man. You know the thing too, and they've obviously been playing pretty well for the most part. Is think about them with Avery Bradley.
I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about the Lakers.
I think they're playing different with him.
Mm-hmm.
Each series, they won each series 4-1, but maybe Portland is, well, no. Maybe one of those series is a sweep, though. They were all guard, big time guard oriented, series.
I think Houston, of anyone, would be a sweep.
Yeah. So
Houston was dead on arrival. I can't stand Houston either. And so
they're hard to watch, man.
I don't blame Houston for playing the way they did. I get that with Mike D'Antoni, you kind of had to go all in or don't do it at all. But you reap what you sow. If you play basketball by the numbers, it won't work. It won't work. There's some things in basketball that numbers can't explain. And part of that is the effect a dominant big can have on a team's morale. When you don't have that, and when you're playing five smalls out there, it's, we're not scoring. I hope the next 3-point jump shot goes in. And, I've had my Houston monologue, but I just don't think playing basketball by the numbers, and not to be the guy that hates analytics, because I love advanced stats. I think they tell you part of the game, but you need a big out there, except the big you need is a Bam type of big, a big that can create on offense, can get to the rim, can be, athletic and disrupt shots at the rim. Those are the types of bigs you need. It's not, let's get rid of bigs entirely. That's stupid. Even, like everybody was like, oh, the Hampton Five when the Warriors were a dynasty. But they kind of forget that Draymond allowed them to play that way because he didn't give up the size on the defensive end. He still rebounded and he still guarded their big while also being somebody that could create shots for other people on the offensive end. And that's the type of big. And that's the type of big that wins championships. If you look at all the teams that have won championships, I think the one anomaly is the 2016 Cavs, because that was a whole fluke. If the Cavs were going to win any championship, it would have been if Kevin Love's arm was in place in 2015. You got to admit, 2016, if Draymond doesn't be, a bonehead and get himself suspended, that was a different series.
I mean, he came back.
Yeah, but they also didn't have Andrew Bogut in the middle, and so that created a highway for LeBron and Kyrie to just get to the cup every time.
Very true. The Cavs, they had Mozgov, didn't they?
The Cavs had Tristan Thompson at the 5.
But I'm saying, like, they had Mozgov too, didn't they?
In 2015, Mozgov was getting buckets. I remember he had like 2 20-point games, and then he got paid by the Lakers.
Yeah, see how that worked out.
But, all this to get back to the Heat and say the Heat have a team that feels one piece away. I hate to be, the bearer of bad news, but, statistics say that this series is almost over. 3-1 comebacks rarely ever happen. Granted, the Nuggets have been that anomaly. There's always a year with an anomaly, but most of the time in the NBA Finals, 3-1 comebacks don't happen. The next question is, what is next for the Heat? Because they seem to have this idea that they're going to get Bradley Beal, Giannis. They're going to bring Kobe back from the dead, have him play for the Heat. So what's the final piece in your mind when looking at this team? What's the final piece for the Heat?
I don't know, man. That's a really good question. Do you get a really, really solid point guard?
I mean, I think Butler offers them the playmaking. They have Hero. They have none. I mean, well, do they have none?
He had a rough night. It happens to the best.
I think Beal would be the perfect fit. Backcourt of Beal, Butler, and Hero. You bring Robinson off the bench, and then you have Bam and Crowder still, if you want to bring him back.
Yeah.
I think that team could be scary. This Miami idea that they're going to bring every free agent in, it happens. It feels like every single year. Miami fans and Knicks fans are one and the same. It's just one team wins more. Knicks fans think every disgruntled superstar is coming to New York. And Miami fans, they are so quick after any superstar loses to throw on the jersey edit, Donovan Mitchell in the Miami jersey. I just wonder what the next piece is. If they come back from 3-1, I might have to burn the LeBron shirt that I'm wearing under this hoodie. I don't know. I don't. This Heat team is. I think that they're more here. Like I said earlier with the Lakers, they just struck while the iron was hot.
Right.
If you play that 5-game series over and over again with the Milwaukee Bucks, I think 9 times out of 10 that Bucks team wins. I think the Heat team was just a team that had momentum. And I think the Bucks were kind of shell-shocked. They hadn't played well in the entire bubble, and maybe with a regular end of the season and an ease into the playoffs, things would have been a lot different. But this Heat team, they got hot at the right time, and they found themselves in the right position, and they made the right plays. And more so, I think Boston wet the bed over the Heat winning.
Yeah.
When you the Gordon Hayward coming back, I think he hurt Boston more than he helped them. I don't think he was ready to come back. And then Marcus Smart just shooting every shot possible in that with Game 7. It made no sense. And so maybe if you play this whole playoffs back, we get Lakers Boston 9 times out of 10 too.
Yeah, I can see that.
We'll see. What are your predictions for Game 5?
Lakers.
Lakers?
Yes.
Really? You think Jimmy Butler with his back against the wall is going to fold?
Yes. They got their one game. That was good. He played great. But it's over. It's over.
I mean, I don't know what the lines are. Vegas probably has already come out with them. But who do you think is the finals MVP? If
LeBron.
Really?
Yeah.
Over Anthony Davis's first 2 games?
Yes.
Why?
Because he had a really bad Game 3. And LeBron, even though the turnover number has been outrageous, his numbers have been good. Now, his games haven't been LeBron-esque, but the numbers have been there. So that's what they'll base it off of. But if he kept playing like games 1 and 2, then it was over. It would have been. But,
So if AD has, let's say, a 35, 12 rebound, 5 blocks, Game 5.
What does LeBron have?
Let's say his 25, 10, and 10, his usual.
It's LeBron.
Really?
Game 3 took it out of the spectrum for AD.
Oh my God.
Because even LeBron they both had bad games, but LeBron's numbers
looked better.
Good. His turnovers were bad, and he had a bad game, but the numbers looked great.
All right.
If you didn't play the game, you'd have been like, "Oh, LeBron played good." So
right. Okay, fine. I'll give you that one.
We'll see who's holding the trophy.
Yeah. Well, I think, my opinion, Miami might make it a game in Game 5. I think it'll come down to the fourth quarter again, like the last 2 games have. There's just, for some reason, the Lakers role players make the most timely threes I've ever seen. Like KCP had a good game, and I have to formally apologize to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I have been calling him trash all season. And
oh my God,
he has proved me wrong. So I can never talk trash on KCP ever again. He had a really good game in the NBA Finals, and he hit one of the most important shots of the game tonight. So I think the Heat make it a game in Game 5, but ultimately LeBron closes it out in kind of a LeBron-esque way to put the cherry on top and make sure he wins that Finals MVP. But hopefully, Pedro will get to sit down and talk after the NBA Finals may hopefully end on Friday. If not, it'll be Long weekend, waiting for that game 6. I'm kind of
Right.
over the no fans. It really
Yeah.
takes the atmosphere away from it.
Yeah, I guess I've kind of gotten used to it, especially with the crowd noise, But I
But
can't
not, I mean, the thing that has been missing has been that 3 and the crowd erupts where the camera's even shaking. And
Right.
like those moments, like thinking about as much as it hurt me, like Damian Lillard's shot against the Thunder in last year's playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And those types of crowd moments that we're missing, like maybe it's because the Warriors aren't in it to add in that excitement, but like I think of like I don't know how it'll be when they're in the Chase Center next season, but Oracle was they were a must-watch playoff team, not only because they were the Warriors, but the crowd was just like you could feel it through your TV.
Every game.
And so the NBA, though, like I've gotten used to the no fans. It's not like football. With football, I don't even really notice that there's no fans there for real.
True.
But with basketball, it's such a momentum game, and the crowd gets behind the smallest swing in momentum. A block, and then the crowd erupts, and then it leads to a fast break dunk, and it leads to these moments that we remember. I mean, imagine if Ray Allen hit that shot he hit against the Spurs, and there was no crowd there. It kind of
Yeah.
takes you out of it. And that's one of the things I've been struggling with watching these finals. It's like it's been entertaining basketball, but with the no crowd, I mean, imagine what Miami would have been like with Jimmy Butler's performance in Game 3 if that was played in Miami.
Should have been crazy.
Exactly. And so,
I want to ask you though your opinion on Philly.
and Doc Rivers,
Yeah, Philly and
Philly, they're kind of, to me, that redheaded stepchild that you really want to succeed, but they just can't get it right. Every year I'm like, Philly can win 60 games this season. And then they like get to like 49 or 50. And you're like, wow, that was a bit of a disappointment. I don't think Philly's issues resided solely in Brett Brown, though he did need to go. I think the team had sort of tuned him out. I want Doc Rivers to establish some accountability with one Joel Embiid. I'm tired of him being the most talented guy on the floor when he plays and just taking nights off. You can't, put on Twitter how much you love winning. You can't put on Instagram how dedicated you are to the game when you show up routinely out of shape, when you float, when you have the weakest 30-12 performances, when you can be the best defensive big in the league and you just choose not to play defense for half the possessions. And you can't claim to love the game and play the way Embiid does. And I feel like to Embiid, basketball feels part-time right now. And with a guy that talented, he needs accountability where somebody will tell him, like, Embiid, you played bad. And Brett Brown was not doing that. And so I think Doc Rivers will establish some accountability with him because, funny thing, everybody loves to hate on Ben Simmons, but Ben Simmons brings it every night. And that's not, like, he brings the intensity, he brings the defense, he brings the will to win. Yes, he doesn't shoot the ball, but, I mean, he was an all-defensive level player this year while also leading the 76ers in assists per game, while also being at one of their top 2 scorers. If I'm building a team, I'll take a Ben Simmons that won't shoot a 3 over Joel Embiid that's this talented right now, because I'm just frustrated and tired of seeing Embiid, piss away what can be a really, truly remarkable career. He just seems that he doesn't love it enough right now. And maybe he has to find it again. I remember watching him at Kansas and being like, this guy is going to be the best player in the NBA. There's like nobody, I don't think there's anybody that can stop him. Seeing the way that he used to move and run at Kansas while he was in shape, and then him being in the NBA and just never being in shape. I think Doc Rivers needs to get in there, tell Embiid to start working out again, get Ben Simmons to at least take mid-range jump shots. I think Philly could figure it out.
Yeah, I think so too. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on Embiid. But Ben, and he's my 3 favorite players: LeBron, Ingram, Simmons.
Right.
LeBron, then those 2 are whatever. But no, like Ben, I love watching him play. but he falls in that category with Embiid sometimes. Now, he did get first-team all-defense. He can guard all 5 positions. He's transcendent. He's a transcendent player. He's amazing in transition. He's an all-around player. But some nights, he won't even look at the rim. And he'll be floating. And he's on the court, but you don't notice he's on the court all the time, And when he's not even looking at the rim and guys are 10, 15 feet off of him,
right.
So like you said, if he can at least, I get pissed because I always get excited. The last 2 summers, I've gotten so excited seeing him hoop on IG.
That's what I'm saying. The lying Instagram videos, man.
And then he won't even look at the rim in the game. So if he
made a point to post videos of him shooting jump shots last summer just for him to not shoot jump shots.
It's so aggravating. Even before the restart. Before he went to the bubble, somebody on the video, like they had the subtitles and everything, like, hey, you feel me, start shooting threes? Right. He like, yeah, in the bubble. I'm like, all right, bro. So if he can at least shoot a mid-range jumper, free throw line extended, and make the defense play him honestly,
right?
I think that's going to continue to open up his game. I don't know if him and Embiid work together well.
You don't think? I think that when you have 2 guys that are top 20 guys in the NBA, like, teams would kill to be in the situation Philly's in. And to me, it doesn't seem so complicated. I don't get what Elton Brand can't get. You have Embiid, you have Simmons. Get 3 other shooters that just want to play defense, and you will win a whole bunch of basketball games. Like, you have Embiid and Simmons, 2 guys that aren't great shooters. You get 3 guys that can just shoot, which makes me think the original construction of the Sixers, if they would have given that time, right? They made the move for Jimmy Butler, and I can't fault them for doing that because any team would, right? Mm-hmm. Jimmy Butler becomes available, you have the pieces, you make the move for him. But the original Sixers with Saric and Covington and Redick, 3 guys that can shoot, and with Covington, a guy that could play defense. I feel like that team was better constructed because you had Saric can shoot, you had Redick that was coming off of 50 screens in 1 possession to shoot, and then you had Covington, who, though he's not a knockdown shooter, he could still hit open jump shots. And that's exactly what I'm begging Elton Brand to do with the Sixers. Like, it does not seem so hard. Like, I get that 2K isn't real life, but that's the first thing I do when I play with them on 2K. Like, and this guy is paid millions of dollars to construct a basketball team. Wouldn't you say, okay, those are the first 2 names you put on the board. Embiid, Simmons. Those are our franchise guys. We've given them max extensions. How do we make this work? And then you're like, well, let's go find some great shooters on the minimum, surround them with great shooters on that veterans minimum, and then you take Al Horford, put him on the bench. I don't know why you brought him there in the first place. You gave Jimmy Butler's money away to an aging center that the Celtics did not even try to really pursue. That was inexcusable for me. And then you give Tobias Harris a max. The guy averages 18 points a game, and you pay him a max? This makes me so mad. Elton Brand. You see Tobias Harris has played for about 5 billion teams, and no team, every time his contract was up, a team traded him before they had to pay him. Why do you think they did that? Because he's the type of player that can kill your franchise. Not because he's not good, but because he's just good enough that he's going to want 100 million, but then he's not going to play up to that 100 million because he's just good enough for it. And that's exactly what he is for the Sixers. And, I love that he gutted it out after he clearly had a concussion and came back in the game 4 against the Celtics. Why is he making 100-some million to average 18 points a game and shoot, 38% from 3? And so those are some of the head-scratching moves that I was like, what are the Sixers doing? They thought they were going to play Horford at the 4. They really thought they were going to start Embiid and Horford together. Like, this is not 1982. Horford is going to get run off the court.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's
That was,
inexcusable. Like you can't make those mistakes and win. And so it goes back to the drawing board. Embiid, Simmons, first two names down. You surround him with three shooters, and you make Horford the most expensive coach you've ever paid in your life.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things play out for them next season.
I do think Doc Rivers was good for them. Mike D'Antoni, I think it would have really empowered Simmons. I think he probably would have had a career year under him because we've seen what D'Antoni does to point guards. But I don't think that would have been good for Embiid. I think he would have not felt involved in the offense.
No, definitely not.
And so Doc Rivers, he has a history of choking, but I think it was a good hire in terms of he's well respected. He's a players coach, and most of all, he's a superstar players coach. And so he will find a way to get the most out of those two guys. And if they can't win with Doc Rivers, Embiid, and Simmons, you're either going to have to split the two up or get rid of Elton Brand. And I suggest getting rid of Elton Brand. I think he just doesn't not know how to run a basketball team. There's very few terrible GMs in today's NBA world because a lot of them are super smart now. They used to just be, friends of the owners that got to run the basketball. And that's why we saw in the early 2000s a whole bunch of terrible deals. But now, in 2020, about to be 2021, you can't be making the moves Elton Brand has made and still have your job. And so I'm going to leave it at that. That's where the Sixers make me so upset. So
My bad.
all right. It's been fun. We'll talk to you whenever the finals end, hopefully this Friday. And if not this Friday, then Sunday.
Let's hope it's over this Friday.
Yeah, that's the goal. As always, thank you, Pedro.
No problem. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yep.